Officers of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for Her Worship, the Deputy Mayor of Nuneaton and Bedworth, Councillor Tracy Shepherd.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's full council meeting. There is no fire drill expected, but if the alarm does sound, please leave via the nearest fire exit and gather at Lloyd's Bank outside across the street. If you do need any assistance, please make yourself aware to a member of staff. Just to make everyone aware as well, this meeting is being trial recorded, and if successful, it will be published on the council's YouTube account or website. The public speakers will not be captured, but their statements and questions and any response will be given and placed on public record within the minutes of the meeting. Just like to take this opportunity to remind everyone to have their phones off or switch to silence as well, please. Agenda item 2, apologies. I have received apologies from Councillor Bird, Councillor Collett, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Saru and Councillor Dillon. Is there any other apologies? Councillor Pandya? Thank you. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Can I receive any declarations of interest that have not otherwise been declared on the schedule, please? Agenda item 4, announcements. I don't have any announcements this evening. So we're going to move on to agenda item 5, public participation. I have 2 members of the public wishing to make statements and questions this evening. And County Councillor George Fince, I invite you to read your statement out. Thank you. Councillor Watkins, do you wish to reply to the statement?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank the council leader of Warwickshire County Council and note his comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite County Councillor Keith Condacourt. Can I invite you to ask your question, please? Thank you. Councillor Watkins, do you wish to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your final question there, County Councillor Concourt. So I'll answer your question because most of it was a statement. So I'm having regular meetings with the three MPs and only met with John Slinger only this week. So that they're ongoing and will continue. The financial statement is set out in the papers, and so that answers your questions. Thank you very much.
I won't be taking any supplementaries tonight just because we've got a lot to discuss this evening. Thank you. Okay, everyone, I've got no more public speakers down to speak this evening, so I'm going to move on to agenda item 6, local government reorganisation. Councillor Watkins, can I ask you to move the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move the motion that has been placed on everybody's seat tonight. We've had a cross-party working group set out to discuss everything that we've been with that is wrote down today, and I'd like to thank the leader of the Conservative Party, Councillor Chris Wilson, for his part in part E of this, which we've included. So I'll move what is wrote out today, and I'm looking for a seconder on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Does that receive a seconder? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Can I second that and reserve my right to speak? But can I also move a procedural motion to suspend standing orders to allow the three-party leaders to speak not on the clock, so we aren't time limited? Because I think there are a number of points which need to be addressed in this very important debate. Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved that we move standing orders to allow further time for speaking. Does that receive a seconder? Councillor Markham. Okay, everyone, that's been proposed and seconded, so we're going to move to a straight vote on that. All those in favour? And against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move straight to the debate on the item. Any member? Councillor Hancox.
Oh, I do apologise. I'll start again. It was interesting, Madam Mayor, to see the statement from Councillor Finch. It just shows how out of touch he really is about local issues. For over 30 years as a councillor, I've maintained, whether it be local government, health, etc., services should be delivered locally wherever possible. Bigger is not always better. We have no identity with Warwick or rugby for that matter. I only say about rugby because on page 14 it says that they've still not made their mind up about their preferred option. That may well have changed. If it has, the leader will tell us. Bedworth now, since COVID, has no civic link, even within Nuneaton and Bedworth. I've tried and tried and tried again to get Bedworth area office reopened without success. It's not too late, Madam Mayor. If we don't do it now, does anybody think it will happen underneath a unitary authority? Perhaps Bedworth and Nuneaton will get the promised land of town councils. Even then, what will it be? There'll be no money, no workforce. Perhaps we will get to decide on the colour of the benches. So, no, I'm not convinced by these rush proposals for unitary authorities and feel we are being bulldozed into agreeing them. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Croft.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Mayor. I am happy to support the motion as moved by the Leader and the Leader of the Opposition, but I did want to put my views on the record as a private member, since we've got the opportunity to debate, which will not be any great news to members of the Council. The first thing I wanted to say is I do think that the government has approached this the wrong way round. I do think that what you need to do is look at powers before you look at structure. Powers for local government and financing of local government. Because if we go through this process and we end up with a single unitary council or a double unitary council, which has still got almost no financial wriggle room, it's got a whole host of statutory duties on it, which it cannot get out of, and very little control over policy areas, then the whole exercise will be pointless. So not that anyone will listen, but I call on the government to look at local government powers before they look at the local government structure. It's very gratifying to help people out as a local member, but government is ultimately there to govern, and local government's powers are very limited at the moment. I do think that the two-tier system has had its day. I agree with that for reasons we need not relitigate, and I'll support the motion, and I'm happy to support the two-unitary model on the grounds that it will make decision-making closer to the people. It will make it more local, but with significant reservations on my part, which I raise not to be difficult, but to try and sort of constructively contribute to the debate. So first of all, I am very dubious about the finances of the two unitary model as presented in this report. The county commissioned a report which suggested that the most financially viable option was a single unitary, and the districts and boroughs have commissioned reports which play down the problems with the finances. There's a lot of possibly and might and maybes and coulds in this report. And for me, the killer question is, if we do go down the two unitary route, what will then happen to the assets and liabilities of the county council being divided between the two parts of the county? I think this is a question that we must have an answer to. I don't think it's an insoluble problem, but we need to have an answer. If it so happens that the liabilities are a whole load of social spending and a whole load of send liabilities in the north, and the assets are a whole load of land holdings in the south, we will be in serious trouble in the north of the county. So I think that we need to have more information and more detail on that. And I'm not raising that to be difficult, but I think that is an important point that needs to be addressed. The second point that I think needs to be addressed is what happens to the powers when they get devolved. Because I know I've complained about this before, but when government recently, of all parties, has devolved power, it's been devolved to combined authorities and partnerships and boards and trusts and whatnot. And that's not really within democratic control. That's not really bringing power closer to the people. So if, for example, County Highways is so big it has to continue under its own separate body, I would have a problem with that. I think it's better to bring those powers into whatever the unitary authority looks like. People say they don't like giving powers to politicians, but a politician is someone who is elected and you can get rid of, whereas boards of officials are people you can't get rid of. And then I wanted to put on record again my opposition to town and parish councils. I'm afraid I do disagree with Councillor Hancock on that. Is because there is no point knocking out districts and boroughs, particularly in this part of the world, and then replacing it with another layer of government of parishes and districts with an additional couple of £100 on your council tax precept. That is my view on the issue before us. I think that the party leaders will go into more detail later. And finally, I will just say that the last time we did this was in 1972, so we do need to be taking a very long-term view with it. We need to be thinking in terms of 50 years, half a century, rather than the next election or the next few years. So that is my view, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Price.
Hi, thank you. So yes, I will also be supporting the motion. I'm also supporting the two system of unitary councils. I think that the point that Councillor Finch seems to have missed is not just the overall saving, but the fair distribution of funding. Councillor Finch talks about representing residents. Is he aware that during the consultation process, 73% of residents selected the 2 option as their preferred option? Representing residents means listening to their views and concerns. Now, isn't that a novel idea? For far too long, the north of the county has been the poor neighbour, and this will only continue with a single unitary based in the south, business as usual. The former county administration closed children's centres in the north and retained them in the south. The current Reform Council are advocating disabled children walking over 3 miles to school, which illustrates their idea of savings in action. You only have to look at the state of our roads in comparison to the south of the county to see where funding is prioritised. In Stockingford, the residents have been campaigning to have their bus shelter reinstated in Thornton's Way for 18 months and still not actioned. At a residents' meeting 2 weeks ago, issues were raised about concerns of safety in Westbury Road. The county councillor not only did not attend the meeting, but didn't even acknowledge the invite. Grove Farm is not only overrun with potholes, but many of the paths are unsafe. If Councillor Finch can spare some time away from Shire Hall, I'd be quite happy to take him on a walk around my ward to see for himself the difference between the north and the south and why I feel Nuneaton residents deserve better.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Rose.
Thank you. Well, let's start with that. Those are really not news. There's quite evident split between north and south of the county, and it has been for a while. And it's not just about income. We are talking quite a lot about income. It's also about expenditure. And I think over our lifetime, being an active resident, we tried to identify what is actual spend. How do you target the needs of the north? Because it's not just about having a project or a program which is equally distributed around the county, but actually that it tackles the issues and tackles the gaps. I think it's evident, as my colleague was saying here, when you look at the roads, when you look at the services being provided here, that there is evidently a gap. Now, in this context, we really need to think about what is better for local, and residents have spoken. Majority of residents support the north and south, establishing north and south unitary authorities. And at the end of the day, we can't look at just LGR, which is local government reform, with actual devolution. Now, picking up on a point, devolution is happening as well. So it's about bringing decisions closer to the people. And as such, we really can't give away this opportunity when our north around here really needs more targeted support, more attention, which may involve further kind of interventions to essentially support that. So I'll be supporting the motion as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Shepherd.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. My apologies for not standing. My own preference, as I'm sure it's the same as many in this chamber, would be to remain as Nuneaton and Bedworth, as this is not an option. Unfortunately, the two unity model offers for a stronger place-focused delivering for local people, allows for a better understanding of local issues. In terms of a difference that could be made is on health and wellbeing. The current Warwickshire Health and Wellbeing Board has not reduced the health inequalities in this borough, they've only got wider. The borough generally underperforms against a range of health indicators, obesity, mental health, life expectancy, and there's also educational attainment, to name a few. SEND in education will be better led under the two model system, where local needs can be better met with a better understanding of the challenges facing residents. By using the two unitary model, it will allow better use of the resources to affect change at a local level. I am happy to support the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Markham.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I think you all know that 12 months ago, I would have actually supported the one unitary authority, purely because of the top four statutory responsibilities of adult social care, home to school transport, children's services and SEND, particularly the cost for the north. But I think there is some way to go, and I still have reservations, particularly about the finances. But I think this is an opportunity to make a change for the future. And for those reasons, I'll actually be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hicklin.
I too, we all seem to be in agreement tonight. I too will be supporting this motion. If Warwickshire County Council have done such a great job over the last 30, 40 years, then why does no one seem to want to join this single authority? It doesn't feel like we are one one county. As has been said before by other speakers, you know, the state of the roads in the north of the county are far worse than in the south. You just need to meet all the potholes, and Councillor Price has highlighted very well the issues in her patch. We've got the educational achievement as well, and SEND, which again, there are big issues there. And I do think making the decisions more locally by splitting the county into two will be much more effective and will be a fresh start for some of these services as well, like with SEND. I do agree with Councillor Croft. I was having some concerns of the finances. I think we need some reassurance that if we do go down the two unitary model, that it does work financially for both sides, because we don't want to do this and then find that we end up in financial trouble and all the rest of it. And it would be nice if local council had more powers as well, Councillor Croft. But I think that might be slightly out of our remit, but it would be something nice to have. So yeah, so generally speaking, I do agree with I think the best solution is going to be the split model. I think that's going to work best for our residents. Again, so long as the finances are clear and you know, it is sustainable, and we can succeed at the north and the south. So that'd be my view. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I'll be supporting the motions before us tonight. I think Councillor Croft's arguments were really well put, that there are concerns over the finances and we need to make sure we get the correct settlement. But as we know, more than 7 in 10 people who respond to the consultation wanted to see a two unitary solution. And I know from talking to residents in Ash Green, Exhall and Kersley, they already feel distant from the council. Things like match day parking enforcement at the arena, which is non-existent, administered from Warwick, trying to get road repairs and things like that in our area, which has the densest population, the highest use of roads, the highest pressure on those roads, and the least scope to actually build more roads to alleviate things. So we need to have those things in place, but it's quite clear that this is what the public that really want. They want something that reflects local democracy. I'm sceptical, like Councillor Croft, about the idea of then bringing in another layer of representation in town councils. We've never had them here. If we end up with a glorified parish council as another layer, which adds costs to residents and is basically just raising issues which have to be paid for by the eventual authority, there's little point in it. However much residents might think that bringing back Bedworth Town Council takes them back to some rose-tinted version of the past that never actually existed. So we do have to get this right. We have to represent our residents. And like Councillor Croft said, this is something that's going to be here for 50 years, not just till the next election. So I will be supporting this. Thank you. Oh, one final thing I would add is what we really don't want is for the eventual council to be joining another super body like the combined authority, because what our residents do not want to see is decisions on major planning issues, for example, taken away from them altogether. I mean, we already have a disconnect between what residents want at the planning stage and what actually gets voted through because of the planning policies. To take it one layer further away from them makes them feel even more isolated from democracy. So let's go for the two authority solution that's on the menu tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak? Councillor Condacor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, I think quite a lot of points have already been covered, and I think we're all pretty much in agreement across this chamber. I mean, we already do quite a lot of sharing of services. We've got certain ones that are shared with Rugby, we've got other ones that are shared with North Warwickshire and things. So we do already have those links. I don't think any of us would deny that actually having a unitary would be beneficial in quite a lot of aspects, because the number of times residents contact us, and I'm sure everyone's the same, they don't know which council they should be contacting and who to contact and things. So from that aspect, that will certainly be a much better thing. Funding agreement is going to be critical, and unfortunately we don't know exactly how that will be worked out. So there is an element of we don't know, and that would apply whichever way this split goes. It's been said, and I absolutely agree. You know, it's a long-term decision. These things do not happen every week, every month, every year. You know, the last time there was serious, reorganisation on this level for this area, it was, in the 1970s, when quite a few people in this chamber probably weren't even born. I was. Certainly, having a single unitary authority would really create a massive democratic deficit for this area and things. It'd be ludicrous to have a unitary based in Warwick, where this town, the largest town in the north of the county, and all the other smaller towns in the north of the county, Atherstone, Bedworth, Coleshill, none of us have a direct bus or train service to Warwick. How are people supposed to actually participate in democratic decisions when they can't even get to meetings unless they've got a car? So that in itself, has got to be a strong factor in saying that the two unitary model would be better. And looking at the NHS, that is moving back to trying to provide much more local services, because it's shown that that gets better outcomes when services are close to the population that is using them in whichever way and things. So I think, it makes absolute sense to be voting for this motion and for a two unitary option for Warwickshire. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. And can I just say a massive thank you to everyone who has contributed to the debate tonight. So much of what has been said, I agree with completely, regards, what the Liberal Democrats have said, what the Green Party said, and also, Councillor Croft and Councillor Brown have highlighted the financial situation. And absolutely, completely agree, we need to have reassurances. And I think we are going to have those reassurances, and that's certainly the long-term hope, certainly for me. I don't really see this as a political issue in the sense of left, right, Conservative, Labour, Labour, Lib Dem or Green. I see it more as really it's a geographic issue, this, and we've got a geography teacher here with us tonight. You know, we're all the Nuneaton Bedworth councillors, Nuneaton Bedworth Bulkerton councillors here tonight, and we love our borough, whether we agree or disagree over the state of it and its progression and how it's going. We all love this area and we love where we represent. And when you love something, even if it's not going in the right direction or you don't agree with the way things are going, fundamentally, we all want the best for this area. And I think what we all want, and this is clear from tonight, we all want a north-south split in a unitary authority, two separate unitary authorities, because politically, economically, culturally, geographically, to me, it just makes a hell of a lot of sense. There was someone alluded to bureaucracy earlier. There was a councillor Finch alluded to bureaucracy. I mean, I find that a bit strange that Reform UK is talking about bureaucracy when they've spent £200,000 on political advisors. But putting all that to one side and the cost of the bureaucracy at the Shire Hall, culturally speaking and geographically speaking, you know, I'm proud to be from Nuneaton. I've lived here most of my life. It's no secret I've hung around here a bit like a bad smell for a long, long time. I went to Warwick University and I lived in Leamington for a year. So I've actually lived, you know, as a student, as a university student in the south of Warwickshire. And it was a culture shock. When I first went to Leamington, I was in awe of it. I thought, my God, this is completely different from anything I've ever seen. I thought it was in London. I thought I got the wrong train. It was obviously a lot shorter journey, much shorter journey. But I was shocked by Leamington. And obviously I enjoyed living there for the 10 months I did. But it was completely different from here. And I'm not saying that to say, you know, I want to cause division and rancor. I don't want to cause all that. I'm just making the point that up here, it's a very different place. I think we need to focus on priorities here. And as Councillor Brown pointed out, even match day parking, it's a completely different kettle of fish up here compared to the south. We're dealing with different issues. We're dealing with different concerns. It's very, very different. I won't ramble on too long because I'm aware that that can sometimes happen. But yeah, I am supporting the motion tonight, Madam Deputy Mayor. I think the case for it is strong. The north-south divide, culturally, politically, economically, is strong. And yeah, can I just conclude by thanking everyone who's contributed. I'm very much, you know, very happy that despite our political differences on this very political issue, we actually are in agreement, and I think that's a very good thing. So I thank the Conservatives, I thank the Lib Dems, and I thank the Greens, I thank my other Labour colleagues as well, because this is about our borough and its future, and it's not about what's good for Warwick or good for Shire Hall. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have any other members that have indicated, so I'm going to hand over to Councillor Wilson, and then I'm going to hand over to Councillor Watkins for his right to reply. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Mayor. I do have quite a lot to say because this is a very, very emotive subject, and regardless of our political differences across the spectrum, including our colleagues from Reforming the Chamber, we are all passionate about our area, we're all passionate about politics, and we should take that in the spirit it is intended. We just have different views on how that takes place. And we have a very in-depth report before us. County Council had a report before it. I am conscious that there is that old saying of he who pays the piper calls the tune. You can always get a report to be written to the outcome you want. So I do take all reports with that pinch of salt, but there must be a basis of truth. Now, I am proud of Warwickshire. I live in Warwickshire. I am from Warwickshire. When people ask me where I'm from, I say I'm from Warwickshire. I'm from Nuneaton and Bedworth too. Warwickshire will not cease if we go to a two-unitary solution. There will always be a ceremonial county called Warwickshire. Solihull used to be part of Warwickshire. Great parts of Birmingham used to be part of Warwickshire. There are still people who call for Birmingham and Solihull to be part of the Greater Warwickshire rather than us being part of Greater Birmingham. But we are where we are, Madam Deputy Mayor. And Warwickshire is just as much the county of George Eliot and Larry Grayson and Gareth Edwards as that of Shakespeare and the Kingmaker. We constantly have Shakespeare thrown down our throats. Now, don't get me wrong, Shakespeare was a great man. He was possibly the greatest student ever of the human condition. But there is more to Warwickshire than Shakespeare. And I remember when I went to leaders' meetings when I was leader of the council, we were discussing the Levelling Up plan. And we were asked what we wanted as part of the Levelling Up plan. And I was saying, well, for me in Nuneaton and Bedworth, it's getting kids back into school. It's about raising that educational attainment. It's about getting people into those good, stable, paid jobs. What was Stratford's request for the Warwickshire Levelling Up plan? A Shakespeare World Heritage Centre. I kid you not. Now, it has its place. Of course it does. It brings in lots of money into the county of Warwickshire. It brings in lots of tourism. But levelling up it ain't, Madam Deputy Mayor. And I do echo some of the comments from the party opposite about what has been achieved over the past 50 years with Warwickshire County Council as it is now. What would be the value added to giving Warwickshire County Council all the powers that we currently have? No one has been able to answer that question for me. Now, if Councillor Finch can present that argument to me, I'm more than willing to listen. But everything I have read, everything I have seen, everything I have experienced, everything I have lived has told me there is this gap between the North and the South. And we just don't take my word for it. Take a look at the election results that happened just a few months ago. The North overwhelmingly, and I may disagree, but that is life, that is democracy, voted for reform. Tides will change. People have yet to learn that. But the south of the county voted overwhelmingly for parties of the left, Greens, Lib Dems. We are seeing that we are becoming further apart politically. It's just catching up really to the reality that we've already known for quite some time, that North and South are not the same. I don't take this argument that has been made that having two councils will create more bureaucracy. We are going from 6 councils to 2 will be, by its very definition, a reduction in bureaucracy. And I share Councillor Croft's concern about creating town councils, and I think it's been shared elsewhere. If they're done right, they can bring value. But my concern would be we would end up something like the Vicar of Dibley. We've all seen it, we've all watched it, and unfortunately, as much as we may laugh at it, it does happen. We just have to see what happened during lockdown with that famous video going viral. Now, the economic argument is the biggest issue, and it was always the Achilles heel of a 2-unitary solution. I think we all acknowledge that. It is the Achilles heel of a 2-unitary solution. But the report before us tonight does show there is a gap between a 1 and a 2-unitary solution. We can't deny that. I think it's about £2.5 million in the report. But what I do have to ask is, at what price democracy, Madam Deputy Mayor? Sometimes it is worth paying just a little bit extra to make sure that those decisions, those calls, those big life-altering moments are made locally by people who know our area, who are from our area and care about our area. People of the South rightly care about ours, but do I know as much about Studley as I do about Whitestone, as about Camp Hill? No, I don't, because I don't live there. I can look it up. I work in Leamington as much as I work in Nuneaton, so I see, just as we heard a moment ago, the disparity between the two. It's great going to Leamington, but they are different cultures, and we need to have the right makeup for us. In fact, there is a district councils network. Again, I do preface this with he who pays the piper calls the tune, but there is a report from the district councils network which shows that population sizes of unitary authorities between 250 and 350,000 are actually what I would term that sweet spot of actually paying less overall for services per head of population. When you start to go too far, too big, that's when you start to find added costs, because you've got to move more, you've got to have people around, move things from the north to the south, as we see now. But we would have, with a 2-unitary solution, locally designed solutions to our genuine local problems. And I disagree fundamentally with arguments which have come from the gallery about, one economy for Warwickshire. That's rubbish. Look at the evidence. North Warwickshire points towards the A5 and the M6. We all know it. We all live it. Again, it's our shared experience. The south of the county looks towards the M40, Oxford, Banbury, Worcestershire way. We see that in the housing market assessments, for example, which have, to be fair, shafted Nuneaton and Bedworth royally in some respects, because even though Stratford is part of Warwickshire, it took exactly 0% of Coventry's overspill, and the rest of us had to take some to make up. And also, the South distorts the help which we need. There is a fair funding review. It's been promised for years. We've all known about it. We've all wanted it. But having the South bolted onto us will distort the support we will get from government in terms of fairer funding. because there is greater value added in the south. But when it actually comes to where the most need is, it's in the north. So we won't get, having the south tagged onto us, that help with the fairer funding review. And that concerns me greatly, because on paper, the GVA for the south is for Warwickshire is great, but when you actually go down to the detail, it's half of the county average in Nuneaton and Bedworth. And we can see that as well with the fact that 17 of the 22 most deprived areas in the county are in Nuneaton and Bedworth. So again, I come back to my earlier point. Where is the value added from a Warwickshire solution? Again, about finances. This concerns me as well, and it's in the report, the debt profiles of the authorities. I think this is a very important point to make, actually. Warwickshire County Council has £250 million worth of debt. That's probably reasonable for an authority of its size. But look at Warwick District Council. That has 200 million, just 50 million less than a county authority. Now, we are assured by its Section 151 officer that that is sustainable. That may be the case for Warwick, but that was spent on Warwick issues. That's their choice. That's their democratic mandate. But if we end up going as part of a single unitary authority, it is residents in Nuneaton and Bedworth who would have to pay that £200 million worth of debt for Warwick District Council and not see the benefit. Warwick will see the benefit, but we won't. Now, we would also see on current trajectory that we would be the third largest unitary authority in the country if we go for a single Warwickshire on about 650,000. Councillor Croft and others have talked about the long term, the longer game, looking at the 50 years. If we carry on for the 50 years, Warwickshire will end up at 750, 800, 850,000 residents. Will a single unitary be able to cope with that? We will then see the democratic deficit enhanced and made worse. And I do have to mention that yesterday we had the news about Surrey coming out, that's gone for a 2 rather than the 3. I hope that isn't a bad omen for us, and I hope that our MPs will be able to lobby on our behalf to actually give the truth from the ground, because again, it looked like government overruled the wishes and feelings of the consultees that answered that, because the consultation responses were for a 3 unitary solution. But actually, I think, and having pushed our consultants, they think we do have a stronger case for a 2 unitary solution here because of the very inherent differences between Nuneaton and Bedworth. And I would like to finish by saying, Madam Deputy Mayor, a thank you to the Leader of the Council for accepting my proposed amendment on a continuing authority. I think it is an outrage that Warwickshire County Council is trying to go for a continuing authority. We have always been told, every time this has cropped its head up over the past 15 years that Councillor Watkins and I have been involved, that whatever happens, if it does happen, every single authority will be dissolved and a new entity created. What saying a continuing authority is, looks like a takeover from Warwickshire County Council. That, I hope, is not the intent of County Councillor Finch, but if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it is a duck, Madam Deputy Mayor. It looks like a takeover. Now, if we are going to have a single unitary, they will have new powers from us, which not one single county councillor, whether that be Reform, Conservative, Lib Dem or Labour, or indeed the Independent, has a mandate or a policy for taking on our powers. If there is to be a single unitary, there must, in my view, and I'm grateful that the Leader has accepted this, be fresh elections with proper boundaries, because we know there are great disparities. Weddington, for example, has great disparity in terms of its numbers as a county division. We must have that so that whatever survives or emerges from this has a proper, legitimate mandate. If Reform get it, that's democracy. If Conservatives or Labour get it, that's democracy. But at least we will be able to exercise all those powers, knowing that the people who have put their cross next to our names have the right to do so. We heard great play 12 months ago that delaying the elections would be a denial of democracy. People went out there and made great hay about it, and actually I didn't necessarily disagree with them. But by the same token, Madam Deputy Mayor, a continuing authority is the same thing by any other name, and I will support this joined motion. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I'm just going to clear up on a few points that was raised throughout the debate. I think we've had a good debate, cross-party debate, and everybody's had a good input, really. So thank you to everybody who's had an input tonight. Very much appreciated. Councillor Hancock's mentioned about it as being bulldozed into this. We have been since last November, when this first hit me. I think it's been constant every certainly every week, sometimes every day. And to be quite honest with you, it wasn't really something that I wanted or needed. I had enough things to do at borough level. Finances just don't add up to me. I can't see as it's being cheaper. It's definitely not going to be cheaper. And I can see that the HRA, this is something that county are definitely after to prop up their finances. And this was mentioned at the cross-party working party. And I still believe that the HRA is something that that Warwickshire is definitely after. That's for sure. Perhaps to pay for a financial advisor or something along the way. It's been mentioned quite a bit about the highways. Well, county took over the highways in 1980. We're still getting them adopted now and still don't accept them. So if it all went to county, I think some of us would be going around on cobbles or something, because they just don't seriously take the highways seriously, and they definitely don't take health and education seriously. Since I've been a councillor, so nearly 16 years, the JSNA, or the Joint Strategic Needs Assessment, has been the same. Been the same problems in the north, and the counties knew about them, and still the same problems are here now today. 15 years on, we've got the same problems. Air quality, county won't accept responsibility for. I have got a meeting coming up soon with them about county, but they don't accept responsibility for. Well, you've got the highways, so it's your responsibility. We might measure it, it's your responsibility. Take the responsibility, sort it out. Cycling lanes, you're on about not going ahead with some of the things that was put forward by the previous administration. How does that help us with our health if you're scrapping all your cycling lanes and things? I want to make it quite clear, really, that I'm not for north, south, or full county. I'd wish I'd leave it alone, to be absolutely honest with you. But this is getting thrust upon us. So the best deal we've got is the north-south, and certainly not being swallowed up by county. So with that, Madam Mayor, I'll pull this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. We're now going to move to the vote. All those in favour? Any against? Abstentions? And that's unanimous. That's carried. Okay, I don't have...
Madam Deputy Mayor, could we just, for the minutes, record? I know it wasn't a recorded vote, but recording the minutes, it was a unanimous vote. I think that's important for the minutes.
Yes, councillor, noted. Okay, I don't have any other business for this evening's meeting, so that concludes the business of this council meeting. Hope you all have a good evening and safe journey home. Thank you, everyone.